Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie Tana, and I love to talk about stories of all kinds, and lately I've been diving deep into the world of the Wheel of Time. I'm on book 13 right now, and today I am going over the last bit of book 12 that I haven't yet covered. I split these videos up into 3 parts, and today I'm going to be going over chapters 24 to the end, to the epilogue. So, Book 12, The Gathering Storm by Robert Jordan / Brandon Sanderson. This one was so good. This ending, the different parts of the ending were so amazing. I'm just going to jump right into it. Obviously, spoilers. I discuss each chapter and kind of my thoughts. In chapter 34, Matt is working with his camp, trying to sort things out, and Varen and Tomas, Varen the Brown Aja Aes Sedai, and Tomas her warder, show up and discuss using traveling to help Matt and the band of the Red Hand get to Andor. In chapter 35, we have some POV of Rand and Tuan. Rand is trying to make peace, make an alliance with the Shan-Chan, while Rand and company go to meet Tuan. He comments on how he's changed so much from a sheep herder until now. You really, at this point, have seen him become the coldest he's ever been. And obviously there's some hint there as to how that could affect stuff like this treaty. And he keeps the access key in his pocket, sort of as a defense in a way. So Rand wants to make peace with the Shan-Chan. He tells Tuan, we gotta work together for the last battle. But Tuan believes, because of certain prophecies of the Shan-Chan, that the whole world has to unite under the Shan-Chan rule before the last battle can be successful, before fighting the last battle. And so they disagree on those points. They don't want to work together in each other's ways. And Rand especially does not want another channeler leashed. Tuan doesn't like how he's running things, doesn't like how the treaty is going. Rand storms off, and Tuan is like, okay, yeah, he's unhinged. We're gonna attack Tar-Valon, and then we're gonna attack Rand. She also mentions Matt while they are talking, and she actually insults him. It's funny because both Nynaeve and Rand are defensive of him, and it's sweet that Nynaeve would be because she's also very critical of Matt at times. So I just like that little tidbit. In chapter 36, we have Matt's POV again. Varen is telling Matt that she was pulled to find him by his Ta'Veren-ness. She wasn't sure if it was Perrin or Matt she would discover when she was being pulled along, but she discovered Matt. And she also warns him that someone's looking for him, which he already knows based on the pictures that have been around of him. Varen makes a deal with Matt to take the band to Caemlyn if Matt agrees to open a letter 10 days after arriving. Matt kind of compromises by saying that he will either open the letter 10 days after opening or burn the letter unopened after 30 days in Caemlyn. And then the POV switches over to Tuan, who is now going by Fortuona Paindrag. I can't remember how it's said. She's Empress of the Shan-Chan now, recognized by her people, and she watches soldiers take off to attack Tar-Valon. And then it cuts to chapter 37. Rand sends Ramshalon, where he thinks Graendal might be, Graendal the Forsaken, to offer an alliance. It's to really find out that she is where he thinks she is. Ramshalon returns with compulsion in his mind, and knowing the mansion where Ramshalon was, Rand channels balefire at the entire mansion, destroying the property and everybody who is inside. After this is done, the compulsion on Ramshalon's mind is lifted, which tells Rand that Graendal is dead, because her compulsion would be gone if she died. Obviously, this was big. This is like a point where he's losing it, if he wasn't already. And Min and Nynaeve are both worried about him, and they go to Cadsuane. Nynaeve has all these ideas of what could be done, and Cadsuane's like, no, you need to find Perrin. You need to bring him here with his camp. But just to imagine all the regular people who were in the mansion, not the Forsaken, just like servants and regular people who not only are dead, but just like cease to exist from the pattern. Such a crazy concept. I don't like balefire in the sense that it's like a horrific idea, but what a cool idea, and what an interesting way to kind of test how much Rand is losing his mind. So in chapter 38, Siuan and Egwene meet Teleran Riel to discuss that Tuan basically thinks that Egwene should stop trying to undermine Elaida in the White Tower and that she should escape. Egwene is in her little boxed prison after Elaida brutally attacked her with the power, but Egwene decides to stay. When she wakes up, she eventually is released from her prison and to return to her novice duties. But she finds out that Sylviana, previous mistress of the novices, who often punished Egwene and tried to break her, but instead kind of formed a bond with her, that Sylviana is now being accused by Elaida of being a dark friend and is to be stilled and executed. Egwene encourages the Reds to go protect Sylviana and fight this. She even takes Forkroot to ensure that she won't channel that, just to figure out that Sylviana will be okay and that the Reds won't fall apart. When Egwene returns to her novice quarters, she finds Varen waiting for her inside. And Varen pretty quickly tells a lie that is an obvious lie, which implies that her oaths as an Aes Sedai are broken and that she is Black Ajah. And then the next chapter, chapter 39, one of my favorite things to happen so far in the Wheel of Time happens. I love Varen. I already liked her. It's one reason I like her a lot in the show, knowing where she's going and what I do know now about her. I'm like, oh, she's so dope. But what an interesting chapter. I have a lot of notes about this one. But ultimately, Varen had her oaths removed as Black Ajah, and she has a limited amount of time to talk to Egwene. She immediately warns Egwene about the Dark One not fighting at Tarmangaiden, and talks about the selfishness of the Forsaken, but that not all evil is so obvious. And then she explains that she saved herself from dying by joining the Black Ajah, and that Tomas, her warder, was a dark friend and didn't want to be any longer, but he couldn't leave. So they both decided to sort of work on things from the inside of a Black Ajah, instead, to see kind of what they could do, what they could learn. And yes, they still probably had to do Black Ajah things, but ultimately they had the goal of learning what they could and escaping if they could. So they decided to study them. And then there is a particular part of the oath they make to the Dark One that basically says they cannot betray the Dark One or his secrets until the hour of death, which is so funny because in all the drama of it, the Dark One apparently never considered that someone would be willing to die to betray him for 1 hour before they died. And so Varen and Tomas, both tragically and heroically, have taken a poison that, once taken, takes about an hour to kill whoever drinks it. Varen has this tea. She has about an hour until she's going to die, and uses this hour to basically betray the Dark One and to tell Egwene what she knows, while Tomas, her warder, is spending time with family with his last hour, which is beautiful and heartbreaking, devastating, and so awesome of Varen, so clever. She says something in the show, actually, in season 2, about oaths and the wording of things, and I just think, what a little great snippet for those of us who know where Varen goes and what she's about. So Varen gives Egwene 2 books, one that is a list of all Varen's known Black Ajah, and the other as a key to translate the first book. Varen says she couldn't find the oath rod in time to, free herself from the dark, which is so sad that, it was in the White Tower, but she couldn't get to it, so she resorted to this. But she informs Egwene that Missana, the Forsaken, is in the tower, and she dies devastatingly. Oh, I love Varen so much. She dies saying that she wants to be remembered as Brown Ajah, and Egwene is emotional and tells her that her soul is white, basically forgiving her in this last hour. It was really sad, but it's what a way to go in such defiance of the Dark One. Sick. I loved this chapter. It was such a cool reveal. I was like, what? Varen's Black Ajah? But she's good? It was just the most perfect reveal before things go down, and makes me love her character even more because I already liked her. But now I'm like, oh, she's dope. She's been doing this the whole time, hasn't she? And then Egwene finds out through the book that Shirayim is Black Ajah, which is tough for her because Shirayim is, in the Rebel Aes Sedai way of things, the keeper to Egwene as Amyrlin. She knows that she cannot be trusted. And then she notes that Elaida is not on the list, though Varen questioned whether Elida was potentially Black Aja, but no, she's just a deranged woman who took over as Amerlin and is failing at it. So that's what she learns. She's able to eventually tell Maidani about Varen's passing when she comes into her room and warns her of Alviarin being Black Aja, of Alviarin being someone in the White Tower at the time. And then she manages to inform Swan in the dream world of the Black Aja sisters, only to leave Tilran Riod to discover that the Shanshan are attacking the White Tower. What a crazy chapter. And then it just goes on from there. In chapter 40, Swan wants to save Egwene, but Bryn refuses, knowing that she wouldn't want to be saved. And then Egwene teaches the novices to form a circle and also find some items, some Sarangrial that will help them in their fight. Bryn promises to help Swan only if she does two things, and he tells her first, bond me as a warder, so she does. It's cute, they love each other, right? And then Gawain's very excited to help because finally he gets to save Gwyn. And then at the end of chapter 40, Adalorna, an Aes Sedai, is saved from Shanshan by Egwene, who shows great loyalty to the tower. She could have escaped at that time, but she stayed and helped fight, and it's a very good sign to the White Tower Aes Sedai. In chapter 41, while the tower scrambles and Swan tries to find Egwene, Egwene is kicking butt. She's very much in control despite the painful feelings toward the Shanshan, despite the rage that is inside her, of her memories and her trauma, arguably, from being enslaved by them. Bryn and Swan, through the warder bond, are able to save each other. And then Swan tells Bryn of Min's viewing that they should not be without each other, and it's proven true and that they save each other's lives. And then Swan finds Egwene and takes her away. Egwene is exhausted and basically like falling unconscious, so she can't really say, no, I want to stay and like manage the tower. She's just taken away by Swan. There are reports to the Aes Sedai that are left in the White Tower of both Egwene's effective leadership and of Elida being taken by the Shanshan, and then the chapter closes with Elida being carried off by their creatures, their flying creatures, and being collared and given a little pet name by the Shanshan. And while I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone, especially considering Elida is not Black Aja, there is some like relief that she's gone and like, oh, finally get rid of her, you know? In chapter 42, there's some brief mentioning of things Rand is dealing with. He's got a lot of political stress on his shoulders. There's both the issues of rotten food and Trollocs being seen close to Rodell's army. Rand says he's not going to Eredilman, but that he will be going to Shal Ghul. Wow, struggle. In chapter 43, Egwene is upset at Swan and Gawain for saving her, despite her wishes. So Gareth Bryn was right. In the Hall of the White Tower, they meet and discuss who will replace Elida, and they offer names of sitters from their own Aja, only to bicker and eventually decide that, like, Egwene might actually be the best option. We don't have a reason not to vote her in. Swan's worrying over events, like watching things unfold. The sitters are meeting with Egwene and stuff like that. And in the thick of all of it, Bryn asks for his second thing for her to promise it to marry him. So, very cute. In the end of this chapter, Egwene reveals Shryam and Moriah in like a very sneaky way as Black Aja using the oath rod. They are detained while everyone else retakes their oaths to prove that they are good and trustworthy. But there are dozens of Black Aja left to be captured. In chapter 44, Rand and Nynaeve talk, and Rand mentions using Lan as a trap because he just has lost his humanity and his sense of friendship. They run into Huron, and he's trying to arrange a meeting with the Borderlanders, between Rand and the Borderlanders, but says that they would have to meet in Farmading, where Rand wouldn't be able to channel. This upsets Rand. He doesn't want to be put in a box again. He feels like he's being caged when he thinks about not being able to channel. Rand tells Huron to tell the Borderlanders that he will help them transport themselves back to their lands if they will go there, but if not, too bad, so sad. Anyway. I haven't said that in a while. In chapter 45, Egwene chooses to wear red as she walks through the rebel camp to show that she does not condemn the Red Aja. She wants to kind of unite them back together. And then there are executions of the Black Aja, including Shryam, but there were quite a few who managed to escape. And then there's this whole lead up to the possible attacking of the White Tower and taking it over. Egwene doesn't want to do this, but feels like she has to. As far as she knows, Elida is still in the tower. But then a gray sister comes out to meet her and is like, hey, do you want to be Emerlyn? And Egwene's like, yes, I do. And it's great. Going to chapter 46, Egwene is ceremonially raised as Amerlin, and she gets after the hall for their behavior on both sides, their issues, and then she asks Sylviana to be her keeper, showing unity with the Reds, and with Sylviana herself, who sort of bonded with Egwene despite doling out punishment to her as a novice. In chapter 47, Rand is at the Stone of Tyr, thinking of old times there and of the harm he could cause with the, if I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry, Kyoden Call, is how I've been saying it, the access key enhancer of magic powers. He remembers even trying to bring someone back to life in the stone, like several books before, and wonders like what destruction he could cause now and like what good he could do now. When he gets back to his room, Tam is there, his father. It's kind of awkward at first because Rand has changed and grown so much and there's like a formality there. But like they kind of bond a little bit and Tam's fatherliness wins over for a moment as they talk. But then Tam accidentally mentions Cadsuane, and this was set up by Cadsuane, right? She wanted Nynaeve to go get Perrin, and Tam is in Perrin's camp, so Tam gets to see his son and kind of help him out of this funk. And Cadsuane is on the right path, but her meddling might have been too much for Rand, because when her name is mentioned by Tam, Rand is so enraged. He's breaths away from killing his own father and causing a whole disaster with Balefire. And when he sees Tam's terror, he like stops himself and then immediately travels through a gateway to Ebudar. In chapter 48, we see Min and Cadsuane talking. Min briefly mentions her own interpretation of a Rand/dragon prophecy in a way that Cadsuane agrees with, thinking that Rand will need to use Kalendor in a circle, and it's just interesting. After this conversation, Tam bursts in. He's pissed at Cadsuane, calls her a bully while she lifts him in the air with the power. But he's like, what's wrong with my son? Basically, like, what did you do to him? And then they all are like, okay, well, then we need to find Rand because he's kind of losing it. And they figure that he's going to defeat the Shan-Chan because he mentioned that previously, which is why he's in Ebudar. In chapter 49, that's where he is. He sees how chill Ebudar is with, like, the Shan-Chan being there. Even the Tinkers feel safe, like they could settle down there. And he's at the point of questioning his own stability, which he hasn't really gotten to yet because he's been so sure that like this is the way, this is the only way I can do this, and then I can die, and then I can rest. But he's starting to question his stability because he almost killed his dad. I mean, that'll do it, right? His desire to attack the Shan-Chan fails when, as soon as he tries to channel, he becomes nauseous and he escapes. First to a field where he had previously fought the Shan-Chan, and then eventually he takes himself to the top of Dragon Mount and he stops to think. Chapter 50 was beautiful. I was listening to this in the car. I didn't realize how little of the book I had left. I pulled over in a Target parking lot and opened the book to read and listen along because it was so good. But so much happens. A lot of it is this emotional arc for Rand, which I've been dying to see. He starts to think over his coldness and the deaths that have hurt him, that he has caused, that he bears on his shoulders, and how it's affected him. He like shouts his sorrow and his anguish like sort of to the sky, to creation, and he's upset at the misery of the endless pattern, asking himself, why are we born again and again? Like, what is the point of this if it's just going to be miserable every time around? If we just have to suffer every time, if we just have to lose people and feel this deep sorrow every time we live. And as he is enraged and sorrowful, he's channeling more and more of Sidon than like ever. It's very intense. More than he did even when cleansing Sidon. And then there's a moment where Lou's there and in his mind says, without his insanity, like the most chill way that he's spoken thus far, he says that the point to live again is to have a second chance. Man. And then Rand kind of breaks and he starts to think of Tam's words, reminding him that the point to going to battle, to fight, and ultimately to live is to love again and again, to experience the joy and the depth of love. So basically the pattern and being the Dragon Reborn is about love, despite the hardships. In this moment, Rand channels to destroy the Kyoden Call access key, which has been a bit of a problem. And finally, Rand feels peace. He knows he will no longer hear Lews Therin's voice because they are not two different people. They are one and the same, and he can accept that and lose that madness. Lose. And there's this beautiful moment of the light breaking through the clouds and Rand laughing, like a joyous, peaceful, like whole laugh, a true laugh, not of darkness, not of bitterness, but of joy and of hope. And it's so beautiful, and I want to, makes me so happy. I don't know. What a beautiful chapter. And it connects right into the epilogue where Egwene has taken down Elyna's fancy furnishings. She's just kind of sitting in the White Tower, assessing the situation, and then Sylviana points out the break in the clouds on the top of Dragon Mount, and it feels significant to Egwene, and it is, because Rand is okay. And it's about time. I've missed true Rand, and I'm happy to see him make this discovery of the soul, because he deserves it. So that is book 12, and I'm so excited to keep reading. I have been not reading as much of 13 because my audiobook app isn't working, and I am reading a bunch of other spooky October books. And so while I kind of finish those books up, I'm putting this on pause. There's also Secret Project 4 of Brandon Sanderson's that I'm reading. There's a lot going on. But ultimately, I loved this book. I love those scenes. I loved Varen. I love Egwene being such a boss Amyrlin. And I love Rand here. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts at the end of this book. Do you like Egwene? That is actually a big thing I'm very curious about. Do you like Egwene? What are your opinions on her as far as your favorite to least favorite characters of the Wheel of Time? And what was it like for you reading that moment for Rand for the first time? We'll be going on to book 13 soon and like giving you guys videos on it. Y'all are the best. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you don't feel like cold, dark Rand, but like happy, whole Rand. And I appreciate you guys watching. I will see you next time with another video.